Living large, living loud, stacking paper high, chasing dreams all the way to the sky. From rags to riches in the blink of an eye, friendships in the vault where the old bonds die. Parties on rooftops, crystals in the dark, lost in the glitz till we miss the mark. Gold turned to chains, heavy on the heart, the price of a wish tearing us apart. Crew, we just hit the jackpot, stacks money tall, and now we on the top of the map. But greed slid in like a police trap. Trucks broke down, can't avoid that cap. Friends turn foes, plot a twist, no script. Lies and blood, bills ain't clean, they drip. Versace steering wheel, now we in for a trip. We used to be friends, but our bond just ripped. Gone. We hit, 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 we hit.
Chapter 11, Echoes of the Past. The solemn toll of the church bell bled into the somber melody of an organ as mourners gathered in the quiet sanctuary of the evergreen chapel, their whispers a soft murmur against the steady hum of rain outside. Meanwhile, in a small and sparsely furnished room, creating a claustrophobic atmosphere that mirrors the tension within it. Sunlight filters through a half-open blind, casting sharp lines across the floor. Emmanuel, Kim, and the police chief stand in a tense triangle, each affected by the charged emotions. I don't know why you even showed up today, especially you, Kim. Most folks here think you had something to do with Anika's death, and frankly, I'm inclined to agree with them, the police chief says. Emmanuel steps forward, his demeanor composed but his eyes flashing with anger. We're here to pay our respects, just like everyone else. Accusations without proof are beneath you, Chief. Kim stands slightly behind Emmanuel, her face pale and her hands clenched. The chief's words strike visibly, and Kim's vulnerability contrasts sharply with Emmanuel's defiance. Maybe, but my gut tells me I'm not wrong, and I'll find the proof, Kim. You can count on that, the chief says. The tension escalates, the air thick with unspoken threats and fears. Kim's eyes fill with tears, her emotional facade crumbling under the weight of public suspicion and personal grief. I didn't do anything. You have to believe me, Kim says. Time will tell, won't it? The police chief says. Emmanuel, caught up in his argument, does not hear the chief's chilling remark. Kim, however, turns to flee the room. Kim stands alone in the bathroom, grappling with a sickness that seems more of the soul than the body. Her retching has ceased, leaving her at the mercy of a silence that is anything but peaceful. As she washed her hands, her reflection in the mirror was suddenly overshadowed by an ethereal image. Anika, looking as alive as the day she died. Kim gasped, stumbling back, her heart pounding with fear and confusion. The ghostly vision vanished as quickly as it had appeared, but then Kisi entered the bathroom, returning her presence to reality. Kim, we need to go, Kisi urged, her voice gentle yet firm. Together, they walked back into the chapel where mourners lined up to pay their last respects. As Kim took her place, she found herself directly behind the police chief, whose mournful eyes briefly met hers, stirring a silent storm of suspicion and grief within him. His gaze then shifted, noting the subtle interactions between Alex, Olivia, and other group members, including Kim and Emmanuel. His curiosity deepened. Their connection seemed intricate and possibly significant. Noticing Ladarius's unfamiliar face, the police chief subtly waved over one of his deputies. He whispered a quick instruction, his voice barely audible over the soft hymns playing in the background. Take a discreet photo of that man behind me and dig up anything you can find on him. Let's see how he fits into this puzzle. The deputy nodded, then slipped away to begin the inquiry. As they approached the casket, Kim could barely stand, her legs trembling when Emmanuel reached out, taking her hand with a reassuring squeeze. His touch grounded her just enough to move forward. When it was time for the remembrance section, Emmanuel stood at the podium, his voice weaving through the tales of Anika's legacy, stirring a torrent of suppressed memories in Kim's mind. The flashbacks came in sharp, disjointed bursts, shouts, a crash, a silence that thundered. The choir began a melancholic hymn about guilt and redemption, their voices a haunting echo in the vastness of the chapel. The words seemed to wrap around Kim, isolating her in a spotlight of her own making. Overwhelmed, she envisioned herself alone in the darkened chapel, the choir's song for her and her alone. Suddenly, reality shattered and Kim fled from the chapel, bursting into the cold light of day. Reporters swarmed their questions like vultures over carrion. But before a word could pass her lips, Emmanuel was there, his arm protective as he guided her away to the sanctuary of their car. "Things are getting out of hand," Emmanuel muttered as they drove away from the Evergreen Chapel. "I need to bump up our security, and I need to see Ladarius. We couldn't talk at the funeral." Kim nodded, her mind still reeling, as they disappeared into the city, leaving behind the echoes of what was and what might yet be. The repast winds down under a gentle morning sun, mourners mingling in the tranquility following the service. Alex and Olivia, having played key roles in organizing the event, stand together, observing as people begin to depart. The chief approaches them, his demeanor respectful but carrying an undercurrent of formality. He stops before them, tipping his hat slightly. "It's Alex and Olivia, right? I must say, today was beautifully done. Anika would have appreciated it." Alex nods, acknowledging the compliment with a polite smile. "Thank you, Chief. We wanted to make sure everything was just right. It's what she deserved. We're glad we could provide some comfort to her family and friends," Olivia says. The chief pauses, his eyes flickering between Alex and Olivia. He lowers his voice, leaning in slightly, which adds an edge of conspiracy to his tone. "Interesting, the things you notice when you're just watching." He straightens up, giving them a thoughtful nod and starts to walk away. The ambiguity of his comment hangs in the air. Alex and Olivia exchange a puzzled glance, uncertain of his full meaning. "What do you suppose he meant by that?" Olivia asked. Alex shrugs subtly, his gaze lingering on the departing figure of the chief. "I'm not sure, but something ain't right with that creepy motherfucker." Two hours after the events of the funeral, Ashley and Jason stand near their boarding gate, their excitement about the trip to Las Vegas mingling with the usual travel stress. Ashley's phone suddenly buzzes. She sees Trey's name on the screen, her face tightening. Excusing herself nervously at Jason, she steps away for privacy. "Guess what?" Trey says to Ashley. "Trey, I'm a grown woman. I don't play them guessing games, and I can't talk right now." Ashley's back is to Jason. Her posture is rigid as she attempts to control the conversation, and her voice is a low whisper. "Listen, Trey, I'm at the airport. This isn't the time. We're drawing too much attention to these winnings, and I'm with Jason now. Things are different." "Hold on, you actually like that lame-ass dude now? It is crazy how money changes your perspective about a person." "Yeah, whatever, dude, bye," as Ashley hangs up the phone in Trey's face. Ashley takes a moment to collect herself before returning to Jason, her smile strained. "Sorry, just my mom. She's always calling at the worst times." "Are you sure you're all right? That seemed intense," Jason says. "Seriously, it's nothing. Let's not let it spoil our fun. Vegas awaits, right?" Ashley says. The excitement of the upcoming adventure fills the air around them, but undercurrents of tension ripple beneath the surface. As the plane climbs higher, leaving the city below enveloped in clouds, the interior lights dim, and passengers settle into the rhythm of the flight. Jason, though outwardly calm, remains inwardly vigilant, his thoughts intermittently returning to Ashley's suspicious behavior. He glances at Ashley, who has now dozed off next to him, her face more peaceful in sleep. The contrast between her apparent tranquility and her earlier anxiety makes him sigh softly, a mixture of concern and confusion evident in his expression. He pulls out his phone, scrolls through a few things without much interest, and then switches it off, resolving to deal with the matter after the trip. His gaze drifts to the window, the endless blue outside mirroring his tangled thoughts. Later that afternoon, the sun sets behind the skyline, casting long shadows and painting the clouds with hues of orange and pink. Inside the bar, the atmosphere starkly contrasts the bright, noisy city outside. The light is subdued, the music low and smooth, creating a cocoon of privacy and quiet conversation. Chris is already seated in a secluded booth with a half-empty glass in front of him, and he checks his watch impatiently. The door opens, casting a brief flare of streetlight into the dim interior before Michelle steps inside, her expression tense but composed. She spots Chris and walks through the scattered tables, her movements graceful yet deliberate. As she slides into the booth across from him, the outside world seems to recede further, focusing the moment on their impending conversation. Chris greets her with a nod, his face serious. "Thanks for meeting me," he starts, setting the tone for a discussion that feels as weighty as the shadows around them. "Thanks for coming out," Chris says. She slides into the booth across from him, her face lined with concern. "How have you been holding up?" Michelle sighs, her shoulders sagging slightly as she stirs her drink absently. "Not great, to be honest. I haven't been myself lately. Certain people want to keep me around to watch over me instead of doing the right thing." Chris leans forward, his voice low. "Well, who the hell are you talking about?" "Now you know I can't tell you that." Chris nods slowly, respecting her boundary but intrigued by the hint of deeper issues. "People who think they run shit should get put in their place now and then, you know? Keeps the balance." Realizing she's said too much, Michelle abruptly stops and straightens up, shaking her head slightly as she regains her composure. "How are you holding up, Chris? I heard things are a bit tense with Mario." Chris snorts, swirling the drink in his hand, his gaze hardening. "Yeah, and you know who I'm looking for." Michelle nods slowly, her face a mask of understanding mixed with reluctance. "I know you two are really into it, but I can't give you his new address, Chris. His daughter lives there too, and if something happens to her, I could never forgive myself." She pauses, searching Chris's face, then leans in slightly, lowering her voice. "But we both know he's stubborn, and the city is hosting certain events that you and I know he will attend." Chris's eyes narrow as he processes her hint, then realization dawns. "You're talking about Jeep Night, aren't you? He never misses it." Michelle gives a slight, almost imperceptible nod. "Don't do anything stupid, Chris," Michelle says. The streets are quieter now as the night deepens. Ladarius pulls up to the well-lit campaign headquarters, his car reflecting the streetlights. He's on his phone, his voice animated and optimistic. "Key C, I might be stepping up big time. Emmanuel's considering me for head of security. Can you believe it? This could boost my firm," Ladarius says. "I'll tell you all about it after. Wish me luck." Ending the call, Ladarius pockets his phone and steps out of the car. He adjusts his jacket, takes a deep breath, and confidently heads towards the entrance. The office is still bustling with late-night activity as volunteers and staffers prepare for the next day's events. Ladarius navigates through the busy space, his presence commanding yet friendly as he exchanges brief greetings. He reaches Emmanuel's personal office door and knocks softly before entering. The room is dimly lit, with only a desk lamp illuminating the figures of Emmanuel and another man concluding their conversation. Papers are strewn across the desk, a testament to the long hours of planning and strategy. Emmanuel looks up, his expression shifting to a welcoming smile as he sees Ladarius. "Ladarius, come in. I want you to meet Trey, our new head of security." In that moment, Ladarius discovered he wouldn't be the head of security. A mixture of shock and disbelief washed over him. As he stood in Emmanuel's office, the revelation felt like a cold splash of reality, sharply contradicting the warm anticipation he had nurtured until then. Trey stands, offering a hand, which Ladarius shakes, masking his surprise and disappointment. "Nice to meet you, Ladarius." Ladarius nods, his mind racing to recalibrate his expectations. "Likewise, Trey. Congratulations on the new role." Emmanuel, oblivious to Ladarius's disappointment, continues enthusiastically. "Trey has brought some impressive ideas to the table. I'm sure there will be opportunities for collaboration between you two." Trey collects his papers, giving Ladarius a nod before exiting. Emmanuel gestures for Ladarius to take a seat, still beaming. "Now let's talk. I believe your skills could be invaluable to my campaign, especially in these critical times." Emmanuel's voice is low and urgent, cutting through the tension that has settled between them. He leans forward, ensuring their conversation remains private. Ladarius, still processing his mixed emotions, refocuses his attention, sensing the importance of what Emmanuel is about to disclose. "Look, there's something nobody else knows but me. During the renovations at the beauty bar, I installed a secret camera, a precaution. Nobody, not even Kim, is aware of it. It was purely for security purposes, to monitor the construction, make sure everything was on track. It looks like a smoke detector that sits above the front door overlooking the main room. Unfortunately, I forgot the access code to retrieve the footage remotely. I am sure the battery has died, but it is still there overlooking the main room, and the footage can be pulled directly from it." He fixes a steady gaze on Ladarius, emphasizing the sensitivity of the task. "This is critical, Ladarius. I need you to retrieve that damn camera discreetly. This must stay strictly between us." Although pissed, Ladarius, feeling a mix of obligation and opportunity, reassures Emmanuel of his discretion. "Emmanuel, I'll handle it quietly and bring back the footage." As Ladarius walks out of Emmanuel's campaign office and heads toward his car, a storm of emotions churns inside him. Although he has been given a critical task that implicitly trusts his capabilities, it's not the role he anticipated or believed he might secure. The office door closes behind him with a soft click, echoing the quiet closure on his expectations of becoming the head of security. The sting of betrayal gnaws at him, the feeling sharpening each step. After all the hints and conversations he goes with Trey, and still expects me to jump at another bone he throws? Protect Emmanuel's campaign, retrieve the camera, keep everything under wraps, sure, because that's all I'm good for, right? His sarcasm is bitter, the words whispered to the empty car. Even as he starts the engine, the sense of being used, of being an afterthought despite his loyalty and anticipation, lingers unpleasantly. Just a few moments before Ladarius walks out of the office, the chief sits in his unmarked car, staked out across from Emmanuel's campaign office, which glows faintly in the darkness. His attention is intermittently divided between the office and his laptop screen, illuminated in the dim light of his vehicle, also a bottle of liquor in his hand. His phone vibrates and he quickly answers it. His expression is tense with anticipation as he awaits the information he requested earlier. After a brief conversation, he hangs up, clearly frustrated by the scant details. Not much, but it's something. Turning back to his laptop, he opens an email that has just come in. Attached is a single photo, the only information they could dig up on Ladarius, as they couldn't even find a name. He downloads the attachment and opens the file. It's a group photo taken in Tokyo, presumably from a trip linked to a go-kart racing event. Emmanuel is visible, along with a larger group, all posed before they hit the road. In the photo, Ladarius stands casually among the group. His presence is understated yet confident, and he is dressed for the occasion. The backdrop shows a colorful array of go-karts and banners, one bearing the website's logo promoting the event. A trip to Tokyo for go-kart racing, huh? Interesting group to mix with. He zooms in on Ladarius, trying to glean anything more from his expression and the group dynamics. The chief's eyes then shift back and forth between the laptop screen and the campaign office, considering the implications of this international trip. Everyone has a history, no matter how well hidden. This might be the thread to pull. So that's how you know Emmanuel and Kim. You're friends. And wait a damn minute. Isn't that Alex and Olivia from Evergreen? Those sons of bitches. I bet they know the whole truth. His fingers drum on the steering wheel. Frustration is evident on his face as the pieces start to fit together in his mind. His attention snaps to the front as a figure exits Emmanuel's campaign office. The chief peers through his windshield, focusing on the man walking briskly towards a parked car. It's the man from earlier, the chief says as he doesn't have his name yet, only a picture. The phone pressed to his ear, unaware of his watchful eyes. Yes, that's him. Quickly, he grabs his car keys, starting the engine with a determined clink. He watches as Ladarius gets into his car and pulls away from the curb. Let's see where you're headed, my friend. With a discreet distance, the sheriff follows Ladarius's car, blending into the sparse late-night traffic. His eyes are sharp, his mind racing with scenarios as he tails Ladarius into the night, each turn deepening his resolve to uncover what lies beneath the surface. Ladarius, still heated from the conversation about the job he didn't get, is explaining to Kesey over the phone. I should have walked out of there, Kesey, but getting this camera footage could set my brand apart. It's a big deal, even if Emmanuel doesn't see it. As he drives, his attention momentarily flickers to his rearview mirror, catching the persistent glow of headlights from an unmarked car behind him. His tone shifts as suspicion creeps into his voice. Key, I gotta let you go. Someone's been on my tail for a while now. He hangs up the phone, his hand moving to the glove compartment, where he retrieves his gun, placing it within easy reach. The car behind him switches on its lights, indicating it's no ordinary vehicle. Ladarius, now on high alert, decides to pull into a brightly lit gas station crowded with late-night customers. He parks under a floodlight, ensuring plenty of witnesses are around. The chief's car pulls up behind Ladarius, the light bar flashing silently. The chief steps out, a flashlight in one hand, shining it directly into Ladarius's face as he approaches the driver's side window. Simultaneously, Ladarius discreetly unlocks his gun, ready but cautious. License and registration. Ladarius, his face illuminated by the harsh light, complies, handing over the documents while trying to mask his concern. Why did I get pulled over, officer? Ladarius says. You were speeding back there. About 2 miles back. Sit tight for me. The chief returns to his vehicle, his boots crunching on the gravel. Ladarius sits back, his mind racing. Wasn't speeding. Something doesn't feel right here. Minutes stretch longer as the chief runs the information through his system. Everything comes back clean. Returning to Ladarius's car, the documents in hand. Step out of the car, please. Ladarius hesitates, sensing something off. As the chief leans closer, the faint smell of alcohol on his breath is unmistakable. Ladarius, his suspicion peaking, questions the request. Do I need to step out, officer? At that moment, recognition dawns on Ladarius. This is the chief from the funeral. Maintaining his composure, he carefully opens the car door and steps out. Do you know who I am now? Ladarius nods, his voice steady despite the rising tension. Yes, I know exactly who you are now that the light is out of my face. And should you be out here doing this right now? The chief's eyes narrow, his tone sharp. Shut the hell up when I'm talking. I loved my wife. I would do anything to protect her, and she was taken from me. I know that Kim had something to do with it. His hand moves slowly to his side, towards his pocket. Ladarius braces himself, a rush of fear surging through him, thinking this might be his final moment. But instead of a weapon, the chief pulls out a business card and extends it toward Ladarius. Call me if you find any information on what happened. Ladarius, his relief palpable, takes the card. Will do. With no further words, Ladarius quickly gets back into his car. As he drives off, his heart still pounding, he glances at the business card in his hand, grappling with the surreal turn of events and the unexpected lifeline the chief just handed him. As the gas station lights fade behind him, Ladarius's thoughts churn with the intensity of the night's events. The car's interior is quiet, save for the low hum of the engine and the occasional whoosh of passing vehicles. His grip on the steering wheel tightens as he processes the unexpected encounter with the chief. This chief, he's more than just a minor nuisance. He's grieving, unpredictable, and now he's got my real name. This could get complicated. I need to tread carefully. This isn't just about navigating Emmanuel's political landscape anymore. There's a lot more at stake. The next night, as Tara drives through the vibrant streets towards Jeep Night, the car is filled with excitement and tension from unresolved issues. How will you handle Mary if she steps out of line once you move back in? I'll put hands on her if a bitch jumps stupid. Just make sure Michelle is not around or she gonna tell it. The girls bust out and start laughing. Just be careful, all right? And speaking of being careful, Emmanuel wants me to host a dinner party at my restaurant. That will be a tough call with all the drama around him and Kim lately. Hosting Emmanuel could put my place in the spotlight, which is great for business. But with all their drama, it might just bring the wrong kind of attention. Good exposure against potential drama. Whatever you decide, I'm behind you. Let's make sure tonight doesn't add to our stress. The lights of Jeep Night come into view, its energy infectious. They park and step into the night, the immediate concerns of their conversation momentarily set aside as the atmosphere of Jeep Night takes over. Chris has managed to make it downtown with vengeance on his mind. His expression is focused on determination, and he moves through the crowd. He's been searching relentlessly for Mario, navigating past faces that only vaguely resemble his target. His frustration mounts with each passing minute until he finally catches sight of Mario. Emerging from the Red Monkey, a popular spot among the Jeep crowd, Mario laughs and talks animatedly with friends, his vape pen in hand. The sight is like a beacon to Chris. Chris freezes, stopping dead in his track. There you are, you little fucker. He strives to control his demeanor and blend in with the crowd, but his face twists with rage. He clenches his fists, his gaze locked on Mario, the target of his vengeful mission now in plain sight. Just then, Antiriel and Tara, weaving through the crowd, notice Chris. Girl, is that Chris? Antiriel says to Tara. They recognize the intensity of his stare, the ominous fixation. Instantly, they sense the imminent danger. Who is he mean mugging like that? They try to track the location he is looking in only to find Mario hanging out across the street. Girl, I think he's looking at Mario. This isn't good. We need to get to Mario before Chris does something stupid. Let's go. They quicken their pace, pushing through the throngs of people, their eyes never leaving the tense stare-down Chris was giving Mario. As they navigate the densely packed crowd, the urgency is clear in their quick steps and sharp glances. Despite their efforts, the crowd proves unyielding. People jostle and move with their own agendas, oblivious to Antiriel and Tara's urgency. The two friends push forward, but progress is frustratingly slow. Suddenly, a rowdy group caught up in their laughter and shoving bumps into Tara. A man's beer sloshes from his cup, splattering across Tara's clothes. The cold liquid soaks through the fabric, leaving a wet, sticky mess. Hey, calm down. It's just a bit of beer, the random says. You stupid asshole, Tara yells. This is a $3,000 Telfar shirt, you idiot. The man mumbles a half-hearted apology, barely slowing his pace. Tara wipes at her clothes, her frustration mounting. Antiriel grabs Tara's arm, trying to refocus their efforts. Tara, we have to keep moving. Tara nods and they press on, their eyes scanning for a path through the crowd. We've lost so much ground, I can't even see where Chris or Mario went. This is a nightmare. We've been pushed even further back because of that stupid spill. We need to keep moving and get to the other side of the street. They might be there. Meanwhile, Mario is having a ball at Jeep Night. He's only been gathering paperwork for his trucking business and working 24/7. He slips away from the group and takes a moment on the sidewalk to smoke his vape. A slight mishap occurs as the device falls from his hand, clattering onto the concrete. Fuck! He bends down, retrieving his vape and checking it for damage. As he straightens up, his eyes catch a movement from across the street through the restaurant glass in front of him. I know damn well that's not who I think it is, saying to himself. It was Chris holding his custom metal spiked motorcycle helmet, staring intensely at him from across the busy street. Mario takes a deliberate draw from his vape. He stands fully, turning to face Chris squarely. The street between them is crowded, but it feels like no one else is there at that moment. He exhales a large cloud of vape smoke, the visual cutting through the space between them, marking his ground. Then he reaches into his pocket and applies his favorite pair of brass knuckles. And then he yells, "It's time to add another scar to the motherfucking collection." Well, what an explosive chapter that was. You've just listened to another twist in the dark tale of We Hit. If your heart's racing and you're craving more, you know what to do. Smash that like button and hit subscribe. Things are about to get even bloodier, more deceitful, and thrilling. So stay with us and brace yourselves for the next chapter.
Wow.